It does seem like, for all intents and purposes, when you buy a foldable phone, whether it's the Pixel Fold or the Z Fold, or for the purposes of this video, even the flips like the Z Flip devices, you are trading some of the most top of the line specs for the ability to fold the thing over, whether you're opening it up into a tablet or you are closing it into a smaller form factor to fit better into your pocket, be more portable, whatever reasoning you might have. Again, you are trading some of those high-end specs for that folding ability, and you're probably doing so at a relatively high price. Look at something like the Z Fold line, right? Look at the cameras on them more specifically, how they started off as, I believe they were triple 12s, or maybe it was two 12s and a 10. Eventually it was two 12s and a 10. And then a couple of years ago, they did put that 50 megapixel sensor in there, and then they kind of stayed the same again, all the while kind of being their mid-range camera setup, the same as the S23 line, but not the S23 Ultra. And if you look at the Z Flip, it is an even worse situation. Yes, the Z Flip has improved quite dramatically, in particular this year with the addition of a much, much larger, much, much more feature-rich cover display. And of course, the specs get bumped up every year. The cameras have really stayed unchanged. We're still dealing with the same double 12 megapixel setup, an ultra wide and a standard. They did increase the sensor size a little bit, but all in all, that camera quality has stayed pretty much static the entire time, with some software advancements making photography a little bit nicer. But again, the hardware has remained the same. That may, however, be finally set to change with the Z Flip 6 if these very early leaks are to be believed. This is coming from Android Authority. The Flip 5 just launched, but a big Z Flip 6 camera leak is already here. So if we scroll down here, basically what we have is Galaxy Club is reporting that in early testing versions of the Z Flip 6, that the prototypes are rocking a 50 megapixel main camera. We would assume it's probably the same 50 megapixel camera that came along with the Z Fold 4, if I'm remembering correctly. And of course, that does make sense to try and squeeze that sensor in there because you've already done it a couple times already. It's a sensor that you've used on a couple other devices, and it's a sensor that your algorithms, your software are already tuned to. So in theory, you plop that thing in there and you should be ready to rock and roll. Well, what is that going to give you? Obviously, it's higher resolution, but you're going to be shooting bend probably down to around 12 megapixels at any rate. But that much higher resolution sensor is also, should be a larger sensor as well, which means capturing more light, faster focus, better detail, better low light, should be a pretty decent step up in the overall performance of this camera. And that's something that has been needed for a really long time. Not just because we've been using the same sensor for too long in the Z Flip, but also because there's so much more competition now. As this article rightly states, these other flips on the market are using just superior camera hardware. And that does not mean that they're actually taking better pictures. A lot of the time, the Z Flip is still the more consistent camera because Samsung software is just so much better than some of these other competitors. But you want to keep your lead. You want to maintain that. And you're beginning to see it shrink a little bit with these devices, one, existing, and two, getting updates and getting better and better. So dropping a sensor that, like I said, you're already familiar with and is a pretty darn big improvement over what you're using is going to make a lot of sense, and it should make the Z Flip 6 a pretty darn solid photographic phone. It might actually improve zoom a little bit as well, just being able to tap into that higher resolution raw image. And of course, it would also allow for 8K recording, which personally I don't care about at all because it's just a little overkill at this point in our lives. I think 4K is still great for 99% of situations, but if you want 8K, you're not going to get it without a higher resolution sensor, and that would come along with this. So all in all, this could be the first in a set of breadcrumb trails towards the Z Flip 6, obviously very early on, and all this stuff is subject to change. This could be something they're testing in prototypes, and it could change and never make it actually to release. So keep that in mind. Great big pinch of salt on this entire news story, but still interesting to think about and something to potentially begin getting excited about for the Z Flip 6. I almost said that incorrectly. Z Flip 6 is a difficult thing to say. in and of itself. New cover display, new processor, finally an improved camera. If you're holding out for some big changes, maybe that's the time when enough has accumulated for you to either jump on board or make that upgrade. Guys, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button before you go so you don't miss out on more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy.